Hello everyone, we are continuing on with our NHL team season previews. We're going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel. I would really appreciate it. I'm hoping to do this as a full-time job one day, and we've been getting great support. I appreciate it, but of course, if you're not interested, you don't have to subscribe. Anyway, let's talk about the Bolts. Tampa Bay is coming off a 51-23-8 season and had 110 points on the campaign and a third-place finish in the tough Atlantic Division. On top of that, they also went to the Stanley Cup Final for the third straight season before losing to the eventual champions, the Colorado Avalanche. Of course, the Avs were able to knock them off their pedestal in 6 games. Now that all the emotions have passed, though, what is going to be the talking points for Tampa this season, and what should their expectations be? Well, one of the main talking points for this team will be how they deal with the impact/effects from last season. Primarily the fact that they were toppled off their throne and had some key losses in free agency after that heartbreaking defeat. We already know John Cooper's guys are going to be trying to bounce back after really being outplayed for the majority of the final against Colorado, and it's over. Can they climb back on top of that mountain? And how will they do so after losing guys like Ryan McDonagh and Andre Palat? So McDonagh was traded to the Nashville Predators this offseason for cap reasons, and by doing so, the team lost a big impact player defensively, and he was able to eat up a lot of minutes. This is especially true on the PK, and while you would like to see the 2-time Cup winner stay in Florida, you knew it just couldn't happen because they knew they had to re-sign some other players. The reality is that's just sports. You have to make tough decisions, and I'm sure other players will fill that gap. But it is not ideal to lose a guy that played nearly 22.5 minutes per night out on the ice, but so is life. As for Palat, it stings. It really does. But they just couldn't re-sign him, just like McDonagh. He played 10 seasons with the team, had some memorable moments, but he's 31. Got to deal with New Jersey, and the Lightning knew. They just couldn't match it, and that was, again, the situation in hand. That means, though, along with other losses, they'll have to make things work. Again, that's just sports, and I have no doubt they'll manage just fine. Now, something that really could hurt the Lightning is injuries. This is going to be something that really impacts them more than losing McDonagh or Palat, in my opinion. This is a problem for any team in sports, but especially a team that is trying to get back on top. And for the Bolts, really problematic after what you saw for last season. Key players like Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos, etc. has had issues before with staying healthy, especially recently, and if the team wants to make a push for a third title in 4 seasons, they're going to have to hope that everyone can try to prevent injuries, and they might also have to load manage for veteran players like the 2 I previously mentioned. Now, Stamkos is 32 years old after all, and Kucherov is pushing 30, so it could become especially important to watch out for your top line guys, so that way the wheels don't fall off of this team that has hopefully a chance to go back on top in the coming seasons. It's not just them though either, as Tampa had a lot of injuries to other key players, Braden Point, Brendan Hagel, etc. They truly were weathering the storm, no pun intended, and will have to continue to do so without Anthony Cirelli, who is expected to miss the start of the year with shoulder surgery. But one other player that they have to worry about that they cannot afford to lose for a long stretch is netminder Andrei Vasilevskiy. I've already talked about him so much, but what's another time about talking about it? Might as well, right? So let's make it very easy. When Vasilevskiy plays and is on his game, he is a very good goalie, might be the best goalie in the world. When he is hurt, the Lightning typically struggle a little bit more. They might win games, but there's going to be some problems. I think over the past few years, they've really had some backup issues, and that's been something that hurts them, because if you would have a Vasi injury, life would get really hard. And that's just going to be something they really got to watch out for, because that would be Tampa's nightmare. And I don't know what the season holds for them in terms of health, as they've got a lot of guys that have logged a lot of minutes during the regular season, postseason. But you do think, fingers crossed for the team, it can't be as awful as last year was. And the final talking point I want to talk here about the team is players that I think are going to have to step up to keep them in contention, or, in terms of their championship standards they have set for themselves. This isn't to say specifically these players are bad. This is just to say that they need to step up and fill voids or to help fill that gap. These players are Ross Colton, Brendan Hagel, and Mikhail Sergachev. There's differences between all 3 of these, absolutely, in what I expect out of them, but they're all going to have to get even better this season to keep up and try to add to the franchise's trophy case. Here we start with Colton. Colton is an RFA after this year, and while he is certainly not a bad player, there's a little bit left to be desired. He, at best, probably looks like a third-line guy on a good team, and he might be able to be a second-line guy if he continues to grow. The thing is, I'm not so sure that this is a ceiling. I don't think he'll be a top-line level player just yet, or possibly even in his career, but tough to say with the minutes he's had on this team. In general, though, I see him as a middle six guy that is capable of playing that, that role, that supporting role, to be a supporting cast member. And he's one of the younger pieces on this team and has to show up to do it so also in the playoffs. In his final 14 postseason games, he had 0 goals and just 2 assists in that span. Now, he did average just about 13 minutes on average out on the ice, but it's just not going to be enough. When you're a team that's playing Colorado, you kind of need guys like Colton to help out and chip in. Now, moving on to Hagel, he was traded to be a key part for this team when it mattered most. He had multiple 20-plus goal seasons with Chicago and then had 7 goals in 45 games with his new team. That's not going to be the case this year, or you're hoping, as he expected or will be expected to play better due to the fact that he should get possibly more minutes, and on top of that, he is going to get more used to the system. And you have to remember, he was one of those guys that had a nagging injury, and while I do think that is a little excuse people overuse, when you come in, you're playing on a team that has new expectations compared to where you come over from Chicago, you're battling these injuries, you're just trying to find your footing, it's hard. So that's why I expect him to possibly do better, and he should do better. Like I said, I would be really hard pressed to see him not do better. The final point, though, is Mikhail Sergachev. Sergachev is a player that has been part of Tampa Bay. He is a good player. He is a good blue liner, but he got paid big. $8.5 million AAV. I believe it's an 8-year extension, doesn't kick in just yet. The reality is, I don't think he's worth $8.5 million. Thing is, when you're getting paid that much, other guys aren't getting paid, which means you're going to have to step up. Specifically, other areas. Yes, he is a playmaking defenseman. He can help out passing. He can kind of be a, a good two-way player. But look at his goal scoring, things like that. He had stretches where he had like 1 goal in 21 games. That's not going to cut it. Again, when you're playing guys like Colorado where their blue line can score, you got Makar, Taze, etc., where they're able to just be monsters, you have to be able to score, help your team out. If you're making $8.5 million a year and you're not scoring goals, you have to be really, really good, in my opinion, at everything else in order to be worth it, but we'll have to see for him. So, having said all this, what are my expectations for the Tampa Bay Lightning? I personally think they should be thinking about winning another trophy. Kind of alluded to this in my video in multiple points. They should not, with the team they have and the assets they've given up, be thinking, a second place finish really isn't that bad. No, these are guys that have won multiple trophies, that have been very good for a very long time. Some of these guys' careers might be winding down. Stamkos, who knows how much longer he's going to play if these injuries keep piling up. They need to boost and pad their legacy. They are not a dynasty yet, in the modern sense, or just really in general, as they did win back-to-back cups. But to be a dynasty, you have to win at least 3, and the traditional sense, you'd say 3 and 4 years. Here's your chance right now. Go for it. These should be your expectations. Will they do so? Can't say. Again, they had some losses, but so did teams like Colorado. Colorado lost Kadri, Burakovsky, etc. And of course, they lost Kemper. Multiple guys from that championship roster are gone. So theoretically, they're a little bit easier to beat. Of course, you lose McDonough, you lose Paul. Again, you're going to have to get it done, and your expectations should be to win a Stanley Cup. But what are your expectations for Tampa Bay going into this season? Will they make the playoffs? Will they win the Stanley Cup? Will they lose again to maybe Colorado? Let me know down below in the comments. And again, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe, have a great night, and Eagle of Valky, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.